What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Dillashaw. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Deanna, can't say her last name, versus Hannah Goldie. I honestly don't think either of these chicks are that great, but I'm leaning slightly towards Deanna. I think she's just a little bit better. I don't have a ton to say about this fight because both these chicks are, 0-1, 0-2 in the UFC, and they just look like decent, well-rounded fighters. I just think Deanna's a little bit better. Next is Sijara Eubanks versus Alyssa Reed, and I think this is going to go like a lot of Sijara fights. I think she's just going to be able to use her size to beat these chicks. I feel like other than the really good chicks, Sijara has much better boxing, much better wrestling than a lot of the lower level people. And they like her, so they kind of feed her these easy fights every now and then. I think that's what this fight's going to be, just her outboxing and out wrestling this Alyssa Reed chick. Next is Julio Arce versus Andre Enwell. And to me, I think striking-wise, these guys are pretty close, but on the ground, I think Julio Arce is just significantly better. I think he's the much better wrestler, and I think he's the much better submission guy. I think, striking, conditioning, they're both really good. Arce probably has a little bit better conditioning. But like I said, overall grappling, Arce wins all time. I think he knows that. I think he's going to use his wrestling. I think he eventually wins by rear naked choke, so I'm going to pick Julio Arce. Next, we got Mickey Gall versus Jordan Williams, and this fight's really weird because Jordan Williams said he couldn't make this weight without it hurting him because of his medical problem. I forget what it was. He has like a medical issue that made it where he had a really hard time cutting weight, which is why he was a really small middleweight. And oh yeah, he had diabetes. And it just makes me wonder if he's making this weight healthy. And because of that, I can't pick him until I see him actually win a fight at welterweight and see how he looks. He should win this fight because I do think he's the overall better fighter, but I just have fear that he might not be coming into this fight in the best of shape. And because of that, I'm going to lean towards Gall. Because I do think, even though I think he's the better striker, I think Gall's the better grappler. And if he's not feeling well and Gall can take him down, I think Gall's going to win by rear naked choke. So I'm going to pick Mickey Gall to win by first round submission. Next is Nasruddin Imaviev versus Ian Heinisch. And I think this fight's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think Nasruddin's looked really good in the UFC so far. I think he's got good striking, good overall grappling. I think Ian Heinisch has also got really good striking and overall grappling. Because of that, I think this fight could go either way. But I'm going to lean slightly towards Nasruddin. Like I said, I think these guys are pretty well-rounded. Heinisch is probably the slightly better wrestler if I could pick anything that favors one of these guys. And because of that, he probably will win, but I just have a feeling Nasruddin's going to win just because I prefer his overall game. I like how much more offensive he is than Heinisch with his striking and jiu-jitsu, so I'm going to lean towards Nasruddin to win by decision. Next is Punahele Soriano versus Brendan Allen, and these guys are both really good strikers. Allen's probably the better jiu-jitsu guy. Soriano's probably the better wrestler. I think that it's going to stay on the feet. And I'm just leaning towards Puna. I think he's got the better striking overall. Allen's probably the more technical striker, but I think Puna's the faster and heavier hitter. And because of that, I think Puna's eventually going to catch Allen and probably TKO him. I'm going to lean towards a second round TKO. On the main card, the first fight is Randy Costa versus Adrian Yanez. And my biggest thing is, I've seen Randy Costa go out of the first round one time, and I know that fight was on short notice, but he got dominated. And I think based on what I've seen from his style, I don't think it was just because that fight was on short notice. He seems like the type of guy that goes out there and blitzes dude and knocks them out. All of his wins are like super early first round KOs. And I feel like Yanez has the striking technique to, avoid that and kind of dance around him until he finds his range. Because once Yanez starts finding his range, he just lights people up. And I think other than Costa finishing him the first minute or two, I think Yanez slowly picks this guy apart and finishes him in the second round, just like how he did in his debut. He lost his debut. So I'll pick Yanez. I think he has a tough first round and then has a super dominant second and wins by TKO. Next, we got Miranda Maverick versus Macy Barber, and a lot of people are picking Miranda Maverick, but I don't think she's going to be able to take Macy Barber down super easy. And I think that if this fight's on the feet, I think Macy's the much better striker, and that's why I'm picking Barber. I think that if she can stuff a lot of those early takedowns, I think she's going to be able to light Maverick up on the feet, and I think she's going to get a late first, early second finish. So I'm going to pick Macy Barber to win by knockout. Next, we got Derek Minner versus Darren Elkins, and This fight's really weird because I've been seeing Darrick Minner as like this big favorite, and Darren Elkins has only been submitted one time in his career, and that was against Charles Oliveira, and that was like his UFC debut. So he hasn't been submitted in like 22 fights or something like that. And it's not just that. I think the overall striking is basically even. Darrick Minner is probably just more willing to throw. And I would say the overall wrestling is probably even. You know, Minner has a big advantage in jiu-jitsu, but the last big advantage I see here is Darren Elkins has a significant advantage in conditioning. I think after the first round, we're going to see Darren Elkins really take over. I think Darrick Minner is going to do what he does a lot, which is just go for this really high pace and try to get a finish really early. And I think Elkins survives all the early submission attempts. And then we see in round 2 him really start to take over and probably get a finish in the late second with like a rear naked choke, maybe the early third. But yeah, I just don't think Elkins gets submitted early, and I think his significantly a huge advantage in conditioning is going to pay off as the fight goes on. So I'm going to pick Elkins to win by late submission. Next, we got the co-main event, Kyler Phillips versus Julian Paiva. To me, I think Paiva's a good fighter, but he's not a 35er. He's clearly a 25-pounder. His striking has been looking better, but I think Kyler Phillips is just too fast. I think Paiva, if he can't get to the ground, he has a chance of submitting him, but I also think Kyler Phillips is just too fast and too strong. I think he's just going to outpoint Paiva and eventually win by knockout. I just don't see Paiva winning this fight. I think he's just too small and not as fast as Phillips to really do much to him. So I'm going to pick Phillips to win by like second round knockout. On the main event, we got Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw, and the biggest question is, how is TJ going to look after 2 years? My guess is he's not going to look that different because, you know, I think that he's still in great shape and all that. I have no doubt that he's been running and all that. I think the biggest thing for me is I think TJ hits harder. I think Corey Sandhagen has a lot of finishes, but other than that flying knee, I think a lot of them are accumulation shots, as where Dillashaw, you know, he has those too, but I think he has way more one-shot knockout finishes. I think other than Corey Sandhagen's one flying knee, I think that Dillashaw isn't going to be just kind of there for that. I think that these guys are both going to be moving and striking a lot, and I think his damage is going to do more over the course of the fight. And I wouldn't be surprised if TJ goes for takedowns here and there, because we saw when Sandhagen fought Aljamain that he's a good grappler, but I think that there are better grapplers, and I think TJ is one of them. You know, he's really good at taking people's backs when he takes them down. Not as good as Aljamain, but, you know, he's still up there. And I won't be surprised if he tries that. And like I said, I see more ways for TJ to win. And because of that, I'm leaning towards him. Unless he was completely screwed by all that time off and he's nowhere near as good as he used to be, I feel like if he's at least close to what he used to be, he should win this fight. So I'm going to pick TJ to win by TKO or submission in like the 3rd or 4th round. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.